for a dream to die. Rely on yourself in no way. Believe.
Hello, everyone. I still cannot see your comments for some odd reason. I cannot see your comments, um, which is unfortunate. So if you see me looking down, it's because I have to keep up with it on my phone. So if I see questions, I'll try and bring it up. So I can see Facebook apparently, but I cannot see YouTube's. So I don't know what's up with that. Um, so if I'm going to make sure I monitor once in a while to catch it, hopefully back and forth. Um, but that's quite upsetting. I'm not going to lie. Pretty mad at that. That's not cool. In any case, we'll do what we got to do. We got to kick this off. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I had a restful one. I feel ready for the week. Um, Today, I realized that I did a uh, a discussion about this about 5 months ago about a form of godliness, but I did not go very deep into a couple other things that I want to cover today. So I guess this would be a 2 point or form of godliness part two, because a lot more has come to the surface about the current climate of the so-called church and what exactly a godly life looks like, I would say. Um, and so I wanted to discuss this fully in all its glory, I guess. So let's kick this off. I'm not gonna lie, that not seeing YouTube chat is quite odd. It's so crazy. That's so crazy. I can't see that. That's so weird. Oh my word. Anyway, um, let me see if it's something on my end. Let's see. Hopefully that fixed it. I don't know if that will or not. Yay! Fixed. Okay. I got it. I got it. I actually had an epiphany and I decided to check the epiphany. And sure enough, the epiphany worked. So I got to do that for the rest of these now. Hold 1 second. Let me make sure I do this because if I don't, I will forget. And if I forget, that's it. That's it for all the brain power I got. I cannot afford to forget this next step. So hang on. Bear with me. Let me just finish this now that I can see your comments. I can shut this off. All right. Good, 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 good. There's one setting that I have to adjust, and then once that's done, I'll be good to go. Almost there. Almost. Save. Bam. All right. Hello, everybody. Ah, so much better to see everybody's comments now. All right. Good morning. A form of godliness. Now, we're going to start off by reading 2 Timothy 3. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people turn away, for of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts, always learning and never able to come to knowledge of the truth. Now, we have talked before about the concept of the new life that Christ gave us after the cross, right? We've talked about that in, I think, in fairly good detail. We've discussed that this new life is not something that is of you, that you have to fulfill. This new life is one that he gave you and placed you in for you to live out. Okay. He is living his life through your current human life. And there's no longer your will, but his. There's no longer the old man, but the new. And the new man does not have any traces of the old man. This is his word, not mine. But somehow we today love to live in the mindset of the old man while wanting all the benefits of the new man. You see, we have that form of godliness, but deny its power. We deny it. We deny God's ability to keep us from sin, not our ability to keep us from sin, God's ability. We put on Christ, and yet still we want to live like man. We put on Christ, but want like man. Okay, so I want to show you a couple of things here. Okay, so first, I want to show you something. This particular video is of an individual that I have shown you before. And when the term comes up of a form of godliness and denying its power, you will hear exactly what I mean, because you'll see it put on full display. And I think the best way for people to understand what that line means is to hear other people embody it. Because I think where we have put God is in this nice containment center. And we like to compartmentalize, and we put us in here and we put God here. And we put the God, Christ's life right in the middle. And each are separate of each other. And when I mean each are separate, each function in their own little space, and they don't have anything to do with each other until. So I want you to listen carefully to what is going to be said here, because I think it's vital. I think it's vital that you understand this statement. Okay, just listen carefully, and you tell me if you hear something kind of odd. Okay, it's not very long.
Let me say this very clear. Just because he makes videos screaming at his phone telling you you're going to go to hell and you're going to go to hell and you're going to go to hell does not mean that he's standing up for what is right. We all sin every single day. And if we could stop ourselves from doing these wicked, sinful things, then we wouldn't need Jesus. When you preach the gospel, you don't focus on sin and say, you're going to go to hell for this and you're going to go to hell for this. When you present the gospel, yes, sin is a part of it. You must bring up sin. But then once it's understood that we need a savior and we are sinners, we don't sit there and focus on a specific sin and say, you got to stop this. You got to stop this right now. In John chapter 15, Jesus said, apart from me, you can do nothing. So instead of him sitting there telling people, if you don't stop this, you're going to hell, he needs to say, if you're battling with this, you need to get in touch with Jesus. You need to grow in your faith and walk with the Lord, because they can't stop sinning on their own. On top of that, you stopping yourself from sinning isn't what gets you to heaven. Because if you take what he's saying and flip it around, he's saying you have to work your way to heaven. Because he says if you're still doing X, Y, and Z, you're going to hell. which implies if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you'll go to heaven. That's called a works-based gospel, which Paul refers to as anathema in Galatians 1. Let me say this.
Okay. Now, if you saw the best way to say this contradiction that he has. Yes, he is, Shanna. If you see the contradiction, you can't do it in and of yourself, but you can do it in Jesus, but you can't do it. If it were possible that you could do it on your own, you wouldn't need Jesus. But apart from Jesus, you can do nothing. So if Jesus gives you his life, then you can indeed do exactly what he says you can't do. Because in his mind, you can sin, and that's all you do is sin because you're a sinner. Not saved, you're a sinner. Remember the concept we talked about, the saved sinner? That's a saved sinner. That's a saved sinner. That's a born-again sinner. A form of godliness denying its power. I, in and of myself, could not have. Yes, since I needed Jesus, bam, I died to self. When I died to self and adorned myself with the personhood of Christ, meaning I am now in the blood, it is very much possible for me to go forward not sinning. Because it is not me, it's him. It's people like that that keep Christians in this unsecure bubble. See, they need people. They keep Christians in this I need a preacher bubble. They keep Christians in the I need to go to this location to feel this way kind of bubble. Yes, sin is a part of it. But you don't need to stop? What? What? It's not about stopping it? That statement of continuing in sin that grace may abound has unfortunately lost all its power to many. Not of its own merit, but to many. There are so many believers that are sold on this I sin every day thing. Now, it gets even more egregious when he breaks that down. Same guy. Because once you hear this one, this one might trip you out even more. My question would be, why are you struggling with it? Here's my question of so why are you struggling with anything? Here's why. The word struggle. Let's break down struggle for a little bit. I want that because I want to answer that question. I want to get that question answered in full. Okay, struggle. To exert muscular energy as against the material force of mass, to be strenuously engaged with a problem, task, or undertaking, to have difficulty or make a strenuous effort doing something. So my question is, why are you struggling with pride? Why are you struggling with pride? This is the beauty of what Jesus did this is the beauty of it. When he died and took sin with him to the grave, we no longer need to contend with sin. We no longer have to handle it. We no longer have to look in its direction. When we put on Christ, struggle ends. If you find yourself struggling, it must only mean that you did not hand that over. You're not living under the truth that he has that covered. 1. 2, you're not understanding true love like he portrays, like he is. Take, for instance, this. You are married. There are certain things that love for your spouse will compel you to do and not do, simply out of how you view and where you regard that person. There are certain things you will not do. And it's not even a struggle to not do because of the love you have. It becomes natural to not do it. Now, amplify that by like a billion, and you'll see how easy it is to not do because you love, because you understood the sacrifice, because you understood where he took you from where you're going, where you were going to where you're going now. There's no more struggle. It's a handing off. When he sees a certain thing in you that you struggle for years with, so you came to God, you said, I'm done. And you say to, say for instance, you say, see if there's anything left that I have not thought about or has become so natural to me that I don't know I have it still. Remove it. So he brings it to your attention by its rearing its head. When that happens, thank you that you have nailed that to the cross. I no longer have to live with it. I no longer have to tackle it. I no longer have it. You took it. When he takes everything, he takes everything. Your job is to give up everything. But only when you understand who he is. See, the form of godliness that we want to put on is that, yeah, I come and before my life ends, I may tackle a few things that are deep rooted, but I will struggle with these for the rest of my life. Untrue. 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 That's a lie straight from the pits of hell. Because if it was the case, you wouldn't need the life of Christ. You just need the pomp and circumstance, the pleasantry. And you can continue doing and living the way you live, albeit probably at half speed. Sin's a location. We talked about this. Sin is where you were. It's where you lived. You died to that location and you were removed from that punishment, that location, into the life of Christ. In the life of Christ, there is none of that. There's none of that in his life. Remember, listen carefully. In his life, there is none of that. And if you are placed in his life, that can only mean one thing. It's none of that in your life either. But it's the acknowledgement of it. You have to acknowledge that. That's the faith walking part. Him keeping you from sin is a his work, not a your work, which is why you can't do it without him. That's a him work, not a you work. That's a his capability, not a your capability. Relinquishing your life to him yields that. You can't boast in it because it's not you, it's him. So now listen carefully. I was in one of his lives and I asked a very specific question, and I'll read the question as I type it out because it's very hard to see. But listen to the fact that he never answers my question, by the way. Okay. I asked, what is the gospel? And this is my question right down here. This right here is my question. What is the gospel? Okay. I asked. That's all I did was ask. I wasn't rude. I wasn't mean. I wasn't nothing. I just asked, what is the gospel? So self will always try to preserve. Self will always try to preserve or make an excuse for something. This is how you know self pops into the room. When self shows up, and you know for a fact that there is a problem in your life, it will tell you, yeah, it's a problem, and we understand that that's your problem and you might struggle with it. Self will make accommodations for itself. Christ will call you to something more. Anytime you bring something that you think is a problem that you can identify, the difference between the self and the Holy Spirit is self will always, and I mean always, try to preserve some semblance of the sin. Give you time, give you an excuse for why it was, why it could be, why it will continue. Self will do that. The Holy Spirit won't do that. That's how you know the difference. So listen.
The gospel, so the word God, let's actually break down the gospel. Oh, someone hit it already. The gospel means the good news. So now that we understand that the gospel is the good news, let's ask the question, what is the good news? Well, before, the bad news is that there is the good news and the bad news is holy and amazing God. And what that means is that God is holy and perfect, and therefore he has a holy and perfect law. And if you do not keep his holy and perfect law, you cannot be in his presence, because sin cannot be in his presence. So the bad news is all of us have sinned. All of us is that God so loved the world that he gave his only son, so that whoever believes in him shall not perish. Now, what does that mean? That means that God came into the flesh and dwelt amongst us. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then he came and lived amongst us.
So I asked, is this the same thing that Jesus preached? I keep asking this question. What's the gospel? He still hasn't told us what the gospel is. He just said it's the good news. Never tells me what the good news is. And then he gets into this diatribe about he walked a perfect life and all that stuff. But listen to where it gets off the rails. And then what did he do? He walked with us, and he walked sinlessly. And he walked sinlessly to a punishment that we deserved. And he died on the cross and rose 3 days later, so that when we die, we can rise with him if we have faith in him. And people always get confused on this. Well, why did he have to die? Why didn't God kill Satan? As sinners, every time you sin, your account balance with God goes negative. Now, I want you to listen carefully to that that statement right there. If you didn't hear it, I'll back it up for you. Listen carefully. You sin, your account balance with God goes negative. As sinners, every time you sin, your account balance with God goes negative. Every time you and I sin, our little account balance of spiritual life goes negative red. As sinners, every time you sin, your account balance with God goes negative. Every time you and I sin, our little account balance of spiritual life goes negative red. Negative. So I'm confused. I'm confused. When you're a sinner, you have a balance in heaven. Okay. And every time you sin, it goes negative red, negative red, negative red. You see, I took my time to try and understand where that analogy could possibly go. And I could not figure that one out. Negative red when you sin. As though somehow your equity in sin and goodness are a heavenly ledger. Like without Christ, if you do some good, that red doesn't happen. But when you sin, the red happens. It gets better or worse depending on the direction you see this going.
Negative red. And here's the bad news. If you go stand before God on your own, you don't have enough to pay the debt. But there is one who lived his whole life without sinning. So he walked to that cross with a perfect balance. And when he died on that cross, which he did not deserve, his balance went green.
His balance went green. His balance went green. He walked earth with a perfect balance, but when he died, his balance went green. I want people to understand what that is saying about Jesus. Please, please try to understand what that says about Jesus. That his walking his life, he maintained, but in his death is when his balance went green.
And he's got something to give you. It's called grace to pay off your balance.
Now, I'm going to go back through because I saw a comment and I want to address it, please, before I get I want to make sure I find it here. Oh no, you guys can feel free to chat in the chat. That's you talking to them. I gave my 2 cents already of what the Holy Spirit and the differentiation between that and yourself and how yourself talks. You can feel free to chat to each other all you want in the comment section. I'm not dictating that. But if I see something that's absolutely contrary to to God's way, obviously I'm going to say something. But so, oh, he has a lot. Oh yes, he does, Dolores. A lot on TikTok. A lot. He got upwards in the region of 112, 113,000 people following him. I understand, and thank you for the consideration. I understand that. And like I said, if I see something, I'll point it out. So have no fear about that. Now, that is what you would consider a form of godliness. That's the prayed up gospel. Make sure that, hey, before you die, make sure you're prayed up. Make sure you're forgiven up. You've heard that one, right? You don't want to die without having, ask for forgiveness. Prayed up. Never answered my question, though, of what Jesus preached. Never answered my question about what the gospel is. He never has. I've asked him to come on. I've asked him to clarify. There's never been an answer. The reason that there can't be an answer is because he only has a form. You see, for a long time, and he was a former Catholic, so that explains a whole lot too. But here's the thing. When you don't take God for who God is, but want to take God for who you believe he is, you don't know God. God is not an interpretation. He simply is. When he gave his son as the sacrifice for our sin and invited us into his kingdom through his son, into a location where you cannot be if you are sin laden, there is no way you can enter into the kingdom and continue being the way you were outside. You have to put on the perfect person of Christ to enter into the kingdom. You have to die. You have to die. Your wants, your wishes, your hopes, your will, all of it is gone. You don't have that anymore. You no longer walk in what you want. You are walking in how Christ walks in every facet. Perfection is not a you thing, it is a God thing. Holding on to a perfect person and putting on their likeness makes you seen the way that person is seen. And if that person is seen perfect, then you are too. Here's the caveat. If you know this, what on earth could compel you with any form of enticement to stray? You tell me. If you truly understood where you were, no matter how bad or how good you thought you were, you had to come to the conclusion that you were not even good enough, regardless of how good you were, to save yourself, thereby putting you in the same category as everybody else. If you weren't good enough to save yourself and you had to die, which is what entering into Christ requires, and you've clothed yourself in Christ, what is so worth going back to your old self for? What is it? You tell me. And what every day could you possibly be doing that for the rest of your life that you will sin every day? Every day. And not now, that's a knowledge thing, okay? You know, if that's the way you say it, if that's what you believe, that you sin every day, you're trying to tell me that you, every single day, knowing it's coming, put zero fail safes in place? You are just okay with that? Oh, because it's your nature. So you're telling me that you've chosen to live in that nature. That's the nature you identify with. You only identify with the godly nature when it comes to grace. Not when it comes to living it, but only as a recourse for the nature that you have decided to live in, which is the sinful one. You see the problem with getting this godly nature thing down versus the sinful nature thing down is this. We honestly don't believe that God can do things for us. That's what it comes down to for those people. They don't believe that God can do anything through them. Miracles might be one thing. He can help me preach or something. But day-to-day living, a holy life, because he knows we're sinful, right? He knows that that's what we're prone to do, is sin. He understands that, so he forgives. You have to reset. Everything's a faith issue. Everything's a faith issue. Everything is a faith issue. I need to have faith that what he says is true. I do. Okay, so let's do it. Let's do something here. Now, I said before, I take things very literally when it's said. Okay, I've said that before. I take things very literally when it's said. So in this case, I'm going to read to you something. And you tell me whether or not I should or shouldn't take this literally. Okay. And if taking it literally is bad, please. Let me see if I find this right here. Here we go. All right. Ready? You tell me if I should just take this. We'll go from 16. In fact, no, we'll read 15. We who are Jews by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by faith of Jesus Christ. Even we have believed in Christ Jesus that we might be justified by the faith of Christ and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. But if, while we seek to be justified by Christ, we ourselves are also found sinners, if therefore Christ, the minister of sins, is Christ therefore the minister of sins? God forbid. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself the transgressor. For I through the law am dead to the law, that I might live unto God. I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not frustrate the grace of God, for if righteousness came by the law, then Christ is dead in vain. Faith is everything. And you have faith that the work he did was a complete work, not a partial work, not a halfway work, not a work for only occasions. It's a complete work. Him saying it's finished is finished. It's done, 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 done. If I build it again, it's on me. I am the transgressor. I go back and do stuff purposefully, and I ignore faith. What we like to do is say, oh, God knows that in this nature I can't help it. I can't help it. The sinful nature is too great. And while I'm here, I'll be fighting this thing all the time. And I have no other recourse but to understand that sin is a part of me. It's a part of you. You make no effort to understand that the faith that you're supposed to have is faith in a complete work. You're just content to have that form of I'm saved, but I still sin on a daily basis. You go through your entire life pleading the blood of Christ as your covering and tell me every day you step out of that blood to do what you want to do just to step back in? Wow. You have a different level of love for God, I'll tell you that. Every day you sin? And you know it, and you still, okay, so hold on. The question then becomes, is every day the sin that you do the same sin, or is it a different one so it surprises you? Is the sin that you commit every day a different sin, so every time it's a different thing and you just get surprised by it? Or is it the same thing that keeps popping up over and over and over, and you know it's coming, but you make zero effort to hand it off to God? Are you serious right now? You know it happens every day, but you have no desire to get rid of it because you think it's your nature. And God must just be content with you saying that you have the covering of his son, but continue in sin because it's your nature. I thought that when you gave your life up, you put on Christ's nature. How are you living a dual natured life? Why would you live a dual? How would his sacrifice mean anything if it allowed you to live a dual nature life? Ask me. Ask me that. Or is it that you just don't believe that God has the power to keep you? You don't believe God has the power to keep you. You don't genuinely believe that his life is in you and you in his. You don't believe that. You don't believe it. You can say that you do all day long, but you don't. If every day, every single day you get up and practice that, and it's a practice if you're telling me it happens every day you get up and you know sin is coming, one of two things have to be happening. You have to be the most well-versed person in sin to practice a new sin every single day of your life, or you know that you have a specific set of sins that you keep going on with and you still call yourself saved. You need to make up your mind. Either you are the best sinner ever to practice a brand new sin every day that it surprises you to, oh, I have that one. Oh my gosh, that's a new one. I didn't think about that one before. Thank you, Demetria. Oh my goodness, oh, new sin. Oh my goodness. Oh, that one took me out of left field. Or every day you know that you have a sin that you struggle with. You are refusing to relinquish it. You like it. You don't want to give it up. How could you possibly want to give it up if every day you do it? Every day? Every day. I understand that you live in this mortal coil. Get it. And that you have this war that's being waged. Listen carefully. There's a war being waged for control of your soul. But understand that you are not the one that should be fighting. It is not your fight. It it's God's fight. And he don't lose. He don't miss. But when you try to touch it and think that you can battle it, you will always lose. You are trying to do the work that God only does, and then want to hand it off as though God understands. He's fine with this. It's my nature. Either God has dominion over everything or he has dominion over nothing. God is not halfway. He is all to you or he's nothing to you. Pick. Pick. Enough with the nonsense of he allows a certain amount of sin every day and he knows that it's normal. Oh, it's okay. Stop. His life does not accommodate daily sin. That's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. He does not accommodate. He expects that when you say you are coming to him for a new life, that you pick up the new life by putting down the old one and never touching it again. My friend Lonnie told me this, and I will never, ever, ever, ever forget this. And I will never forget it because it was so impacting and so true. The cross only has room enough for you to pass through, not you and your baggage, just you. Not you and all the stuff that you pass. It's just you. You leave all that stuff on the other side. When you enter through the blood into that kingdom, that's it. You don't reach back out and say, oh, look, I still have this in your hold. You're not through. Stop playing. You're not through. You want to hold on to that because it's comfortable. You don't really want the sacrifice. You don't want to be in the kingdom. You want to be half in and half out. I got news for you. You're not even half in. You're not in at all. This game we want to feel like we can play with God is dangerous. Either his sacrifice covered everything and he has the power to keep you, or he doesn't. Either you have a form of godliness or you have godliness. And a form of godliness is not godliness because it has zero power to do anything. And hence you will struggle all the days of your life because you're not living in the blood. You are living in your own. If you're trying to tell me that you can do nothing without Christ and you sin daily, it tells me that you're doing nothing. You're not going anywhere. Because if you did have Christ, you wouldn't be sinning every day. Plain and simple. Either when you come to Christ, you recognize your filthiness, your wretchedness, your lack of anything, and you realize that it is worth nothing but burning up, thrown to the side, tossed away, removed, deleted. That's what it's worth. And you enter a brand new life that is perfect, that is sinless, not because of you, but because of Jesus. You walk the rest of this human life under that power, in faith in that power, not yours, not your old nature, the new nature, the one that is incorruptible, his nature, until such time that when you die and he restores all things the way he wants it, that you get both an incorruptible body and salvation in full. But don't hand me this crap about walking daily is a difficult thing and you have to sin all the time and that's just what I do. That's nonsense. That's stagnation. You are admitting defeat before you even start. You sin every day. Every day. No, you have a form of godliness. You have a form of godliness. I am saying, why are you committing the same sin over and over? God forgave all sin. My question to anyone in this room is, why are you continuing to do the same thing that he said he forgave you for? If you say you love him, what on earth could possibly compel you to continue doing the same thing that caused him to go to the cross? What? What on earth could possibly be worth it to keep doing the same thing that had him go to the cross? I want that answer. That's the real question. It's not whether or not he forgives. It's a matter of whether or not you accept the forgiveness and actually love him because of it and not do it anymore. That's the bigger question. If you have a struggle, ask yourself this one very important question. Why would I fight a battle he never asked me to fight? And why am I holding on to something he took? And why, for the love of all that is holy, if I say I love him, would I go back and do the very same thing that hurts him? All to say that he forgives. Why would I do that? Why? Because it's your nature to do it? That's your excuse? It's in your nature? I thought you were dead. I thought you were crucified. How can a crucified person, a dead life, do anything? It tells me you didn't die. It tells me you like the way you lived. It tells me that your sinful nature has dominion over you still. I saw quit. There it is. Here's a bigger, again, I have to answer your question with a question. Whose life? Whose life, Angela? Whose life? Whose life? It's a very simple question. Whose life? Whose life, Angela? It's a perspective thing. It's putting your mind where it's supposed to be. Whose life? I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, because, of course, you're not dead physically. Yet not I, but Christ lives in me. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but Christ. And the life which I now live in the flesh, because I can't help but do that, I live by the faith of the Son of God. I live by the faith of. I live by the faith of. We have been sold a bag of goods. We have been told in not so many words that our nature is stronger than God. We have been told that our nature is stronger than God's. We've been told that the devil is stronger. We've been told that the devil is stronger. We've been told that our old life is stronger than his sacrifice life, stronger than the life of Christ in death. Our nature is stronger than that. Our nature, the sinful, fallen, hell-bent nature, is stronger than God. Angela, do you believe that Jesus Christ was and is the Son of God, the Word made flesh, the Word before everything was made, nothing made through him, without him that was made? Do you believe that that person came to earth to die the death in the flesh that we were due, in order that he might place us in his life upon his resurrection, so that we no longer have to suffer the consequence of our sin? Do you believe that? Do you believe that? If you believe that and you confess that with your mouth, now mind you, this next step is pivotal that you get this, Angela. Whatever you live now is inconsequential compared to the life that you say you want to put on. This is not a trivial matter. This is not something fly by night. This is not seat of your pants, spur of the moment, knee jerk reaction. You have to think this out. You are taking your mind, removing it from the things of this world and placing it on the things of Christ. You are relinquishing all, A-L-L, all of your ways and replacing them with his. You no longer are going to follow what was, you are following what he says. You are going to allow him to do all things that he needs done through you to be done. You no longer look at the old life. You no longer talk to the old life. You no longer have any resemblance to the old life. It is done. If you say this is what you want, you have to fully believe that he has done the work and that he will do exactly what he said in your life today through his son. You have to believe that. You want to know how you get saved? You have to believe that. That's where the faith lies, not in your own work, not in what you do, what he did, what he will do, what he does. And in your love for what he has done by saving you from the pit, that love should compel you to live a life so different that people will never see you the same. They will look at you and think there's something not right. That's not who you were. That is not who you were. What happened to you? They won't even have to look at a work you did. They just have to see you. And something will be different. They won't be able to place the finger. And you know what you won't be able to do? Shut up. You won't be able to shut up about it either. Not only will they tell the difference, they'll hear the difference. But this is a choice. If it's not a choice that you are absolutely 100% sold on making, please don't make it. Please don't make it. Don't make this a game. This is not a game. You are talking about your eternal soul and where it will end up. And then, more importantly, you are dealing with a perfect God. The perfect God. And him being perfect, there is no second nature allowed to reside with you when you say you have his. It's not no. No. How would you deliver this message to a teen that has not been in the church growing up? Ironically, it's easier. So much easier. They don't have the crap to deal with and wade through that we have. Folks like us who have been through years and years and years of church. It's a harder message to take. We have crap to undo. They don't. If he's never been in it, that's better. When I say better, I mean way better. They got no God vision to undo. They don't have a view of God to undo. They only have a view of themselves. Way easier to deal with a teen or anyone who has never had an affiliation with church. It is so much easier. You're introducing them to a brand new concept. Nothing is tainting it. You can actually introduce them to Jesus in his full, true form. And the only comparison they will have is to themselves, and they will see the dichotomy right down the middle. They will see it. There'll be no gray areas for them because they were never handed a gray area. Just tell them. That's all you have to do. Just tell them. Again, do you not? Okay, here's a question then. Do you believe that when God steps in to someone's life, he can do what he needs to do? We're talking about a form of godliness, right? Do you believe that when God says, I transform, that he can transform? Is it up to us to really decide whether or not or how a person receives God? Or is it up to God? Do we decide what soil the seed falls on? Do we even know? Our job is to seed. That's it. Seed. Your job is to seed. The growth is God's. You just have to seed. Just seed. Don't worry about when, don't worry about how, don't worry, just seed. And then you live the way you're supposed to live and you will see growth. It's natural because it's not of you. The growth is not of you, it's of someone else who does not fail. Trust me, guys. When we let God do what God do, God don't miss. He don't miss. He don't fail. He don't falter. He don't fall back. He don't have a misstep. No. No missteps. If we say God is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him, you know what the reward is? Himself. He is the reward. He is the reward. Not a gift, not a tongue, not an him. If you gain nothing else in this life but Christ, win. But please, please, don't don't live your life denying the power that God has to keep his people. By his nature, all his laws are kept. By his nature, all sin is denied. By his nature, all sin is forgiven. When I live my nature, none of that is true. And when I have died to myself, my nature, and I put his on, all the things that are true about his nature become true about me. Not because I am so good, but because I am so dead. Not because I'm good, but because I'm dead. And when you are dead, you can't do anything. It's weekend at Bernie's, and two people are carrying you around. Please do not have a form of godliness and deny its power. Either he is God or he is not. Either he saved you from the pits of hell or he didn't. Thank you, Nicole. Tomorrow, we will be speaking about Here Am I, Send Me. In case you missed the rest of the week, tomorrow, Here Am I, Send Me. On Wednesday, the Kundalini Spirit, we'll be tackling that. On Thursday, When God Spoke. And then on Friday, Paul and the Holy Spirit. If I leave you with nothing else today, let me leave you with this. You serve a mighty, 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 mighty God. And he was not weak against sin. When he sent his son, the Word made flesh, to die a human's traitor's death and give you access to the kingdom in order to speak directly to him, He did that, not you. Stop playing with God. God's way, his ability, his strength, all of that resides in the life of Christ that he's given you. If you have the life of Christ, if you have the life of Christ, there is zero way you can willingly know that you sin every day and continue living like that and said that's normal. You want to sin every day and you do make zero effort to see the truth that you should be dead. Talking nonsense about some spiritual balance in heaven. Absolute crap. That balance, so-called balance, isn't affected by your good or your bad. It just is. It's death. There's not more death that you keep piling up. There's not more death. Every sin doesn't add another year to your death total. You're just dead. You're gonna die in sin. Just dead. Just dead. More sin doesn't make you more dead or less dead. You're just dead. Christ's life is everything you will need. Everything. You won't need anything more. You won't lack. You'll have just enough, and sometimes you'll have abundant. If you love God, like you say you do, ask yourself this very pivotal question. If you find yourself thinking that you sin every day and you know that you sin every day, ask yourself why. Why you value yourself more than God? Why do you value, after you accepted his sacrifice, why do you follow what you want more than his sacrifice paid off? Why? When you answer that question, you'll understand your whole walk. You'll understand your walk. If you know somebody that needs to hear this, please share it. The biggest thing you can do for this channel, if you need this to grow, and I would love to see this get bigger, like, share. If you have not subbed yet, go to YouTube, subscribe, Straight Talk. If you want to support the mission that he set me on, I didn't pick this. Talk to him first, verify that he wants you to do something, and at the bottom, there are options, but only after you've spoken to him. Only after you've spoken to him. And if you talk to him every day, even better. He'll tell you anyway. Secondly, if you have a mail that you want to send, there's my P.O. box. If you have packages to send, if you look on my YouTube channel, there is a second line of information that you need to put in, as well as all this, in order to send bigger packages. That you have to put that second line, but it's on my YouTube About section. If you have emails that you want to send, topic discussions, Straight Talk MB at outlook.com is the place to send it. Okay. I really appreciate you guys' time, your attention, and your willingness to take everything back to the author for not just verification, but as a matter of communication with him daily. Please do that as often as you can. Correct everything I said before the throne, all of it. That's why he sent Jesus, in order for you to come before the throne rightly. Y'all have a grand rest of the day. We'll catch you guys later. We do have the Savage Patriots today, and we are kicking off our series this week about the many wars that the United States have been in, that we should not have been in, and what the impact was on laws afterward that were impacting citizens who had nothing to do with wanting to go into war. And so we have almost 2 weeks worth of, thank you, Dolores. We have 2 weeks worth of wars to go through, 6 in total that we're going to be tackling. And then we'll go through exactly what rules and laws came after them that affected American populations. And Shante, I didn't ignore the request for prayer. Will do. Yes, Joyce. It's 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. Yes. Yes. And if you haven't subbed there yet, go sub Savage Patriots on YouTube. We'll see you guys then. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. So please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die,